Howdy y'all, Pixelated Power here. Now, let me preface this video real quick by saying I know I've delayed the video enough, and I'd like to explain why. I've lost a little bit of morale for the game recently, as, you know, there hasn't been an update in months, and the community itself has been very divided on the issues, but I've gathered the courage myself to actually want to do a video, so I decided, hey, fuck it. I've been waiting long enough, and I'm pretty sure everyone's been waiting enough for this too. So, without further ado, I'd like to introduce you all to my first video. Introducing the bully killer himself, the Assault.
I'm not a loser! You are!
So, let's get things started, shall we? As the Big Bad Assault, the Killer, or the Axe Sponge if you will, you're the man or woman in charge of making sure you take down the killer and bring the nightmares to them. You have two objectives as the Assault: keep around your supporting classes in case of a killer attack, and know when to strike. You are the team's front line, and if you're not prepared to take the killer head on, he's either going to plow through your team to get to you, or he's going to plow through you to get to your team. Granted, the Assault isn't a bitch, but he isn't a Mary Sue either. Health doesn't come cheap in this game, and medics gotta watch for their teammates too. He also just can't waltz in front of the killer expecting him to keel over or something. The Assault is a big responsibility to take, seeing as the kill options the other classes have aren't really reliable or good most of the time. Thankfully, you and your trusty pipe can make their way to godliness with just a few scrap and a buttload of helmets. Starting with your pipe, at base level it only does 20 damage and is one of the most slowest hunks of junk in the game, but it shouldn't be underestimated. 20 damage is still a lot, and if you have a medic or scout backing you up, it can easily abuse a poor strangler main to death as you spam E to win. But against a giant or a slasher, the most you'll be doing is tickling them as they absolutely demolish you for even considering to try to attack with a base pipe. For 10 scrap, you can upgrade your pipe with some barbed wire to boost its damage to 30. Honestly, once you have this upgrade, life just gets easier, then all of a sudden you aren't eating axes and fists to the face as often. Sure, 10 extra damage isn't a lot, but if you get some hits in while the killer's distracted, those numbers add up and make the Assault go from a tickle monster to an actual threat. And finally, for 15 scrap, your pipe gets the edgy treatment and adds some nails to boost that damage to a comfy 35. Now, sure, that sounds lousy, but get a load of this. Along with the plus 5 damage increase, the nails bring in a unique mechanic only available to the max level pipe itself: bleed damage. Bleed damage not only drains the killer's health, but it also slows him down, preventing a cowardly killer from escaping their certain demise. The bleed damage from the max pipe does a total of 9 damage, being 3 damage for 3 seconds. Those 3 seconds seem like forever though, as your killer struggles to even move an inch while they bleed out. In total, if you let the bleed run its course, every single pipe swing does a whopping 44 damage. This thing turns into a powerhouse and is the nightmare of killer mains. And don't get me started if there's 2 helmeted assaults with those things. You might as well just accept your fate as you get cheese grated by 2 teenagers. But it is expensive, and you gotta remember, you aren't a tank. You're a glass cannon. Once your helmet breaks, you're better off letting your supports tickle or distract the killer while you go make another helmet. Speaking of which, the helmet is your only defensive option, and if anything, is almost always necessary for taking the killer head on. They're not really complex or anything, they're very simple actually, but for how cheap they are, man, they're useful. For 10 scrap, you literally get a whole ass 100 HP added to you. It stops all damage from the killer and even some friendly explosive splash damage. It even stops fall damage of all things. Ironically, it doesn't stop fire damage from seeping through armor though, so if you're in a pool of fire getting torched by a techie, your health goes down, not your helmet's at least. There isn't a gauge for the helmet's health, so you gotta do some math to remember how much damage you got on before you drop it for a new one. And some poor sap picks it up only for it to break upon taking a single hit, and decides to blame you for it. Do I sound upset? I feel like I sound upset. Moving on though, the Molotov. What was once a magnificent nuclear explosion and the bane of killers everywhere is now nothing but an overpriced range/area of denial tool for the Assault. For 15 scrap, you get a little rinky-dink bottle that covers the ground in flames. It only breaks on contact with the ground though, so if you're gonna throw it at the killer or at someone else, you better aim for their feet. And honestly, I've seen more people bounce it off random objects and teammates than I've seen them actually land it. As for the actual effectiveness and damage of the Molotov, it deals 20 damage per second while the killer is inside the fire. But if the killer does manage to escape the fire, it only deals 5 damage for 10 seconds, so at least you get a guaranteed 50 damage if it sets him on fire. All in all, the Molotov isn't exactly, a good killing tool. It's mostly just a distraction or something to chip away the killer with. Now, it does the job well, but for the 15 scrap, it's kind of expensive. But hey, if you got scrap to spare, you might as well make one. Finally, the last thing the assault has to his kit is a bastardly beauty itself, the baseball bat. The bat does a whole 45 damage per swing, and it swings at least 20% faster than the pipe, but it comes at a hefty cost of 20 scrap. The bat only has 5 hits, but if you manage to land all of them, it ensures a good 225 damage to your target, meaning you can literally kill a max health strangler with it. A glaring issue with the bat, though, is if you use up all its hits, you end up getting locked up in an animation. Your character stares at the broken bat and wonders, "Duh, where big stick go?" And as you're stuck looking at a broken table leg for what seems like ages before they decide to dispose of the damn thing and swap back to your primary. Mind you, the animation is mandatory and cannot be skipped or interrupted. You have to sit and watch as your dunce of a character stares at a piece of log while the killer that you used it on hunts you down for trying to hotline Miami his ass. The bat is a tactical savant when it comes to takedowns, though. If you know a slasher is 200 or below, you can solo the bald, black-lunged bastard with a full health helmet and the bat alone. You will be down to 8 health once the brawl is over, though, and you need to make sure none of your hits whiff. So make every hit connect, and if you miss, just hope it's not too late to run. Alternatively, if you give a support a helmet and a bat, you can both gang up on any killer and ensure their demise is swift and plenty painful. The bat, though, personally, is only an option for the slasher, seeing as the asthmatic Axeman does a whole ass 48 damage per swing and is a complete noob killer. So the faster he dies, the happier I am. Now that we have all the assault equipment checked off, it's time for some tips before we end the episode. Now, you might have noticed that I've been ignoring the Strangler, and that's because a well-supported assault, no matter the level, can absolutely destroy the Strangler. The poor guy only has 215 health, and once he gets caught, you'll be too busy beating the homeless crackhead for him to run away. His only option up close is the slap, and it only does 25 damage, meaning if you have a medic, or if you're feeling especially destructive, a scout, not only can you tank it, but you probably stun him and just keep him in place the whole time as you beat him to death with a blunt pipe. Another tip is to try to partner up with your scout and help them get longer blinding. That thing lasts forever if it hits, and lets you get 2 good hits, maybe 3 if you're lucky. The last tip I have is the most crucial one. Stick by your medics everywhere. I cannot stress this enough. It is a symbiotic relationship. You need to protect them and take hits for them, and they'll heal you and watch your back. You can't run into any killer without a medic backing you up and expect to come out alive. And even if you have a helmet, you're probably going to get 2 swings before you start taking damage to your actual health. They're your lifeblood, and you're theirs. Scouts come second because they can give you the chance to strike or escape, and technicians are technicians. Their whole kit is based around letting other things kill the killer while they swallow up all the scrap in a 12-mile radius, so you know they're trying hard. And that's about it for this episode. I wanted to thank all my friends over in both of the last year community discords and my IRL friends as well. It's been an amazing experience doing this all on my own, and I can't wait to make other videos and such. If you have any criticism or feedback, it'd be greatly appreciated if you post it in the comments. And if you actually think I'm gonna get off my ass to make another video, then feel free to subscribe. Anything helps, really. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all in the nightmare. See ya.